Hello, everybody. Well, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Well, right now I am in quarantine in my bedroom. Quarantine. I have the corona. I have the COVID, but I feel excellent. And I figured I'll just do some more reading from the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I'll just the computer is kind of glitching out on me, so I apologize. Is there anybody out there? Just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? Relax. I need some information first. Just the basic facts. Can you show me where it hurts? I guess I could have gotten a little, but we're on chapter 5, Renounce and Rejoice. At the beginning of, I'm reading from the Bhagavad Gita, translated by Eknath Easwaran, and the introductions are done by Deanna Morrison. So there's an introduction for each chapter, and then I'll read the chapter. I don't know what's going on with my internet here, so I apologize. Hey, Travis the Brick. Well, I'm sick, buddy. Well, not sick. I'm quote unquote asymptomatic. I got the Rona. So I figured I'd come on here early in the morning and do a little reading on the Bhagavad Gita. At the beginning of this chapter, the traditional approach to the spiritual life, that is, leaving the world, retiring from the ordinary affairs of job and family, is contrasted with working in the world with detachment. The general term for retiring from the world is Sanyasa Renunciation. Traditionally, Sanyasa meant renouncing all worldly ties and attachments. The person undertaking the vow of sannyasa would leave home, family, and occupation to pursue a strict contemplative life. This was a path chosen by very few, even in ancient India. Yet we shouldn't forget that surprising numbers of people in traditional societies, both in the East and the West, have chosen a monastic life removed from the turmoil of the world. In India, the compassionate Buddha provides the classic example of one who leaves the comforts of and fulfillments of family and worldly life to seek the lonely way to self-realization. The story is well known throughout Asia. Siddhartha Gautama was a prince with every worldly satisfaction within his reach. Yeah, I don't have any symptoms at all, dude. Pretty unscathed. Who left his palace to find a way to lead the world beyond suffering and death. He became a wandering sannyasa, a lonely, austere monk. Only after he had attained to complete enlightenment did he return to society to teach others of the peace of nirvana. Though Krishna acknowledges here that this way of sannyasa can lead to the goal, he recommends the path of selfless action and selfless service as the better way. He contrasts the way of Sankhya, which is in this context means knowledge of the self in a general way, to the way of yoga, which here means the way of action. This term yoga presents difficulties in the Gita because it means different things at different times. And many definitions are given of this all purpose term. But for several chapters, the topic under discussion has been the active spiritual life or karma yoga. And that is clearly what is meant in this context. Sankhya and yoga might also be translated as theory and practice. It would seem that at the time of the Gita, the path of wisdom was regarded very highly, while the path of action may have been looked upon as an adulteration of the spiritual life. It is even possible that the Gita was the first Hindu scripture to introduce the novel idea of combining karma yoga with the pursuit of self knowledge. Krishna says that only immature, inexperienced people look upon the paths of knowledge and action as different. The true goal of action is knowledge of the self. Following either path faithfully will lead to the complete spiritual vision. It is essential in karma yoga that the selfish ego not expect gratification from the work. When there is no selfish involvement in work, the worker does not come to spiritual harm. The example is the lotus. It spends its life floating in water, yet the drops of water roll off its leaves without ever wetting them. Similarly, as long as the karma yogis do not expect reward or recognition, any evil that might stain them from nowhere to cling has nowhere to cling. Such yogis are said to be detached from the outcome of fruits of their actions, karma phala. Krishna warns Arjuna that life of work, even successful work, cannot be fulfilling without self-knowledge. Ultimately, the true self within him is not affected by what he does, whether good or bad. Only knowledge of the self, which rises like the sun at dawn, can fulfill the purpose of his life and lead him beyond rebirth. What's up, Thoth? How you doing, buddy? I got the wrong kind. This is mac and cheese. This knowledge of the self or Atman is by its very nature also knowledge of Brahman, the all-pervading, immanent, and transcendent Godhead. Krishna says that the illumined person sees the divine essence in all beings. He or she has equal vision and sees the divine self in all, regardless of the outer aspect. The last three verses of the chapter describe a state of profound meditation called samadhi. When meditation becomes very deep, breathing becomes slow, steady, and even, and the windows of the senses close to all outward sensation. Next, the faculties of the mind quiet down, resting from their usually frantic activity. Even the primal emotions of desire, fear, and anger subside. When all these sensory and emotional tides have ceased to flow, then the spirit is free. Mukta, at least for the time being, it has entered the state called samadhi. Samadhi can come and go. Generally, it can be entered only in a long period of meditation and after many years of ardent endeavor. But one verse, 528, adds the significant word sada, always. Sada means always. Once this state of deep concentration becomes established, the person lives in spiritual freedom or moksha permanently. This is extremely rare. Mystics of the West, as well as the East, have attained brief glimpses of unity, but very few can be said to have dwelt in it permanently, as if it were their natural habitat. In the West, the most prominent figures are Meister Eckhart, Saint Teresa of Avila, and Saint John of the Cross, though there have been many others. In the Hindu tradition, there is a long line of saints and mystics who have tried to communicate something of the nature of this union with reality or God, from the unknown recorders of the Upanishads through the Buddha, the Shankara, and Mira to Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi. So that was just the introduction to the chapter. And, this is exactly what Phil talks about, how you can release yourself from the world while alive in the world, dying to the world, your ego dying to the world. This is what he means by you must die before you die. So when you die, you don't die, right? Spirit is the mind or God. Yes. How does that compare with the Bible? Is there as much raping, genocides, and incest? Why I thought I could leave it to you all day and you'll do that shit, right? The meditation practice is actually about objective thinking without emotions. Yes. Just look at Fox News, riling up emotions in order to control thought. Or you could say the same thing about watching Joe Biden speak, right? I mean, it's like watching Kermit the Frog up there, reading off a teleprompter, right? The Masterwork series, Explore Your Mind. Yes. Okay, now here's the chapter. It starts out with Arjuna. Oh, Krishna, you have recommended both the path of selfless action and sannyasa, the path of renunciation of action. Tell me definitely which is better. Both renunciation of action and the selfless performance of action lead to the supreme goal, but the path of action is better than renunciation. Those who have attained perfect renunciation are free from any sense of duality. They are unaffected by likes and dislikes, Arjuna, and are free from the bondage of self-will. The immature think that knowledge and action are different, but the wise see them as the same. The person who is established in one path will attain the rewards of both. The goal of knowledge and the goal of service are the same. Those who fail to see this are blind. And I take that as meaning that you come to realize that knowing thyself brings you to the world of selfless action, because you realize that yourself is everybody. The consciousness is one all-pervading thing. Our soul is one all-pervading thing. Our ego is all one pervading thing. And we live in a world of ups and downs, hot and cold, back and forth, evil and good. To realize this through the obstructive nature of our own minds and our own thoughts, we realize that knowledge of thyself is the same as selfless action. Perfect renunciation is difficult to attain without performing action, but the wise following the path of selfless service quickly reach Brahman. Those who follow the path of service, who have completely purified themselves and conquered their senses and self-will, see the self in all creatures, just like I just said, and are untouched by any action they perform. Those who know the truth, whose consciousness is unified, think always, I am not the doer, while seeing or hearing, touching or smelling, eating, moving about, or sleeping, breathing, or speaking, letting go or holding on, even opening or closing the eyes, they understand that these are only the movements of the senses among sense objects. Those who surrender to Brahman all selfish attachments are like the leaf of the lotus floating clean and dry in the water. Sin cannot touch them. Renouncing their selfish attachments, those who follow the path of service work with the body, senses, and mind for the sake of self purification. Those whose consciousness is unified abandon all attachment to the results of action and attain supreme peace. But those whose desires are fragmented, who are selfishly attached to the results of their work, are bound in everything they do. Those who renounce attachment in all their deeds live content in the city of the nine gates, which is the body as its master. They are not driven to act, nor do they involve others in action. Neither the sense of acting nor actions, nor the connection of cause and effect come from the Lord of this world. These three arise from nature. And that three is the template of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or the body, the mind, and the intellect, right? I mean, the three are prevalent in everything. The Lord does not partake in the good and evil deeds of any person. Judgment is clouded when wisdom is obscured by ignorance. But ignorance is destroyed by knowledge of the self within. The light of this knowledge shines like the sun, revealing the supreme Brahman. Those who cast off sin through this knowledge, absorbed in the Lord and established in him as their own goal and refuge, are not reborn as separate creatures. Those who possess this wisdom have equal regard for all. They see the same self in a spiritual aspirant and an outcast, in an elephant, a cow, a dog. Such people have mastered life. With even mind, they rest in Brahman, who is perfect and is everything, everywhere the same. They are not elated by good fortune nor depressed by bad. With mind established in Brahman, they are free from delusion. Not dependent on any external support, they realize the joy of spiritual awareness. With consciousness unified through meditation, they live in abiding joy. Pleasures conceived in the world of the senses have a beginning and an end, and give birth to misery. Arjuna, the wise do not look for happiness in them, but those who overcome the impulses of lust and anger, which arise in the body, are made whole and live in joy. They find their joy, their rest, and their light completely within themselves. United with the Lord, they attain nirvana in Brahman. Healed of their sins and conflicts, working from the good of all beings, the holy sages attain nirvana in Brahman. Free from anger and selfish desire, unified in mind, those who follow the path of yoga and realize the self are established forever in the supreme state. Closing their eyes, studying their breathing, and focusing their attention on the center of the spiritual consciousness, the wise master their senses, mind, and intellect through meditation. Self-realization is their only goal. Freed from selfish desire, fear, and anger, they live in freedom always. Knowing me as the friend of all creatures, the Lord of the universe, the end of all offerings, and the all spirit disciplines, they attain eternal peace. Right? So what does that say? That says that we are we are here in a mire, a muck of reality, sense reality, to rise above it. For within us, the peace is always found. Excuse me, I gotta see who just called me. So yeah, what are you guys talking about? Seen a guy telling one of the right wingers who are talking about banning books Yeah, like peanut butter and fish heads. Whatever that means. Yeah, but I'm just sharing the reading of the Bhagavad Gita, and that's all. And take it for what you will. Chapter six, the practice of meditation. Meditation for me has been difficult. I maybe I should try it now because I'm alone. I'm in quarantine. I can't leave my room. I can't go bowling, you know. So maybe I should try to meditate. They are banning the because of Dead Naked Mouse character about the Holocaust when they keep the Bible. Yeah, okay. This is surely one of the most intriguing chapters of the Gita. For here we are given a detailed explanation of meditation addressed to the layperson. The same meditation techniques are given in more esoteric writings such as the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, but the Gita does it more simply, without any unnecessary mystery or complexity. This chapter also explores the question, who is the true yogi? This word yogi may bring to mind images of amazing people who do strange contortions with their bodies. Yogis are still thought of as standing on their heads or reclining on a bed of nails. It is true that there are many practitioners of a kind of yoga that involves physical exercises and postures. And there are those who have achieved remarkable feats like lying on beds of nails or even being buried alive and surviving. But the physical side of yoga, called hatha yoga, the yoga of force, is not what is meant in the Gita. In fact, though physical techniques have a place, the Gita regards undue emphasis on them as outside the normal course of spiritual development. In the Gita, the word yogi often has a more modest definition. It can mean a person who does his or her job with detachment from the rewards, or it can be rendered as one who has attained the goal of meditation. For yogi literally means one who is accomplished in yoga, and yoga means integration of the spirit. In this sense, yoga means wholeness or the process of becoming whole at the deepest spiritual level. The word yoga is also often used as a synonym for Raja Yoga, the practice of meditation as taught by Patanjali. For meditation is the direct means of becoming integrated, united with one's truest, deepest self. Thus, a yogi, among other things, is a person who is an adept of at meditation. Only now Krishna has been instructing Arjuna in the need for karma yoga, the active life of service. Now Krishna is ready to initiate him into the practice of the more interior disciplines of the spiritual life. Karma yoga, he says, is the path for those who wish to climb the mountain of self-realization. For those who have reached the summit, the path is shama, the peace of contemplation. At the beginning of the spiritual life, great exertion is required. As the summit is approached, though the climb gets easier, the dimension of contemplation or stillness is added. Many spiritual traditions, of course, use this image when speaking of the religious quest. The mountaintop is the place where the holy, like Moses, commune with God. And St. John of the Cross speaks of climbing the mountain of Carmel. It's like Mount Meru, the mountain of God, the mountain of truth, Mayat, you know. In all traditions, this is spoken of. And even in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it speaks of this. As you climb the mountain grows ever higher, you know. In climbing this mountain, willpower, self-help, and intense personal effort are absolute essentials. The literal translation of verse 5 is one should lift oneself by one's own self, a play on the word Atman, which can mean the highest self as well as self in the ordinary sense. One's self is thus one's friend of one's own enemy. The lower self is self-will, will in the negative, selfish sense, an unruly will twisted towards self-aggrandization. Aggrandizement is an enemy lurking right inside the fort, where it can do the most damage. But those who have conquered themselves by themselves have their truest friend in the self. Only those who have genuine self-discipline, who are self-conquered, live in peace. And this is, the eternal struggle of the twixt forces within us, right? The Gog Magog, the battle within, right? Heaven and earth, ego, will and desire, right? These, Krishna says, are true yogis. They cannot harbor any malice, cannot even bring themselves to look upon anyone as an enemy. They are Sama Buddha, of equal mind. The true yogis, who are fully integrated on all levels of consciousness, feel everyone's joy and sorrow just as if it were their own. They see the self in all beings everywhere. How is this self-conquest to be made? Very simply, the Gita teaches that the mind must be made one-pointed through the practice of meditation. This is the basic technique in the Gita. We do not see the tendency for elaboration, for which ritual and mystery that we sometimes find in the Hindu tradition. Krishna simply tells Arjuna first that he must find an appropriate place to meditate. A suitable spot for his practice will be clean and comfortable. In a nod to tradition, one verse recommends the meditation seat be covered with kusha grass and a deerskin, the traditional seat of the yogi. The important thing, however, is not how the meditation seat is made, but what is going on in the mind. Meditation is an internal discipline to make the mind one-pointed, absolutely concentrated. Second, Krishna instructs Arjuna to hold the body, head, and neck in a straight line. This may seem esoteric, a reference to the contortion school of yoga, but it has a practical purpose. Sitting absolutely straight with the spinal column erect prevents drowsiness. Also, in advanced stages of meditation, it allows for the free flow of vital energy, or kundalini. Then practical advice is given. Moderation is the path. Neither extreme asceticism nor indulgence will aid meditation. An initial acquaintance with Hindu culture may give the impression that it fosters either the sensuality of the Kama Sutra or the asceticism of the hermit. It is true that in Indian civilization, we can easily see the development of the sensual and artistic in many manifestations in painting, sculpture, music, and dance. And Indian cuisine is famous for its variety of flavors and spices. India also presents us with the austere simplicity of the wandering holy man, or sadhu. The Gita, however, recommends the middle path. Success in meditation, Krishna says, comes neither to those who eat or sleep too much, nor to those who eat or sleep too little. The body should be neither overindulged nor treated harshly. The same recommendations the Buddha offers. This chapter contains the famous verse comparing the mind to a steady flame. By its very nature, the untrained mind is restless, constantly wandering here and there, trying to fulfill its desires. It flickers wildly like a flame in a storm, never blown completely out, yet at the mercy of the wind. Wherever the mind wanders, Krishna says, it must be brought back to its source. It must learn to rest in the self. Once it is at home in the depths of contemplation, the mind becomes steady, like an upright, unflickering flame in a windless place. In this deep meditation, and only there, can the human being find true fulfillment. Then the still mind touches Brahman and enjoys bliss. This is the Sunday. Should have been dead on Sunday morning, banging my head. Now Arjuna asks an inevitable question. Krishna is far ahead of him, and the struggling disciple simply can't catch up. He says, my mind is so restless and unsteady that I cannot even comprehend anything about the state of mystic peace you are talking about. And that's me all day long. The mind is so powerful, so turbulent, that trying to bring it under control is like trying to catch the wind. I hear you, Arjuna. I feel the same way. Krishna admits that the mind is terribly hard to train, but he maintains that it can be done through regular practice if one has detachment. It is interesting that he does not offer to help Arjuna here. That will come later. For now, he tells Arjuna that he must do it for himself through hard work and detachment from private personal motives. Then Arjuna asks a rather surprising question. What happens to the person who believes in a spiritual goal but does not pursue it to the end? What if one of his more powerful, compulsive desires gets the better of him, scattering his resolution the way a cloud is scattered by the wind? Either Arjuna is not prepared to seek self-realization, or he is afraid that somehow he might fail if he tried. If he were to fail, he asks, would he have lost everything? All that he had given up in worldly life, as well as his goal of self-fulfillment? Affectionately, Krishna assures Arjuna that no attempt to improve his spiritual condition could be wasted effort. Even looking ahead to the next life, he has nothing to lose and everything to gain. He will be reborn in a household suitable for taking up his quest where he left off. In his next life, he will feel drawn to the spiritual goal once again, and he will have a head start. And, a lot of us who are, hey, what's up, guys? Right. Hi, Lisa. How are you, sweetheart? Nice to see you. What's up, Juice from the Sky? I'm glad you guys could join me. Yeah, not many people in the house, but whatever. I'm here quarantined with the Rona. As you see, I'm not feeling too bad. I'm feeling pretty good. One of those asymptomatic cases. I tested positive 4 days ago and still testing positive, and my wife won't let me out of my room. I can't go bowling, but oh well. I'm healthy. I'm feeling all right. Omicron is the new vaccine, guys. Okay, now here's the chapter, and after I read this chapter, we'll go over what I've read and what everybody thinks. And I climbed a large oak and fed about 30, 40 of them. Later on, Thoth, love you, brother. It is not those who lack energy or refrain from action, but those who work without expectation of reward who attain the goal of meditation. There is true renunciation. Therefore, Arjuna, you should understand that renunciation and the performance of selfless service are the same. Those who cannot renounce attachment to the results of their work are far from the path. For aspirants who have to climb the mountain of spiritual awareness, the path is selfless work. For those who have ascended to yoga, the path is stillness and peace. When you have freed yourself from attachment to the results of work and from desires from the enjoyment of sense objects, you will ascend to the unitive state. Reshape yourself through the power of your will. Never let yourself be degraded by self-will. The will is the only friend of the self, and the will is the only enemy of the self. To those who have conquered themselves, the will is a friend, but it is the enemy of those who have not found the self within them. The supreme reality stands revealed in the consciousness of those who have conquered themselves. They live in peace alike in cold and in heat, pleasure and pain, praise and blame. They are completely fulfilled by spiritual wisdom and self-realization. Having conquered their senses, they have climbed to the summit of human consciousness. To such people, a clod of dirt, a stone, and gold are the same. They are equally disposed to family, enemies, and friends, to those who support them and those who are hostile, to the good and evil alike, because they are impartial. They rise to great heights. Those who aspire to the state of yoga should seek the self in inner solitude through meditation, with body and mind controlled, they should constantly practice one-pointedness, free from expectation and attachment to material possessions. Select a clean spot, neither too high nor too low, and seat yourself firmly on a cloth, a deerskin, and kusha grass. Then once seated, strive to still your thoughts. Make your mind one-pointed in meditation, and your heart will be purified. Hold your body, head, and neck firmly in a straight line, and keep your eyes from wandering. With all fears dissolved in the peace of the self and all actions dedicated to Brahman, controlling the mind and fixing it on me. Sit in meditation with me as your only goal, with senses and mind constantly controlled through meditation, united with the self within. An aspirant attains nirvana, the state of abiding joy and peace in me. Arjuna, those who eat too much or too little, who sleep too much or too little, will not succeed in meditation. But those who are temperate and in eating and sleeping, work and recreation, will come to the end of sorrow through meditation. Through constant effort, they learn to withdraw the mind from selfish cravings and absorb it in the self. Thus, they attain the state of union. When meditation is mastered, the mind is unwavering, like the flame of the lamp in a windless place. In the still mind, the depths of meditation, the self reveals itself. Beholding the self by means of the self, an aspirant knows the joy and peace of complete fulfillment. Having attained that abiding joy beyond the senses, revealed in the stilled mind, they never swerve from the eternal truth. They desire nothing else and cannot be shaken by the heaviest burden of sorrow. The practice of meditation frees one from all affliction. This is the path of yoga. Follow it with determination and sustained enthusiasm, renouncing wholeheartedly all selfish desires and expectations. Use your will to control the senses. Little by little, through patience and repeated effort, the mind will become stilled in the self. Wherever the mind wanders, restless and diffuse in its search for satisfaction without lead it within, train it to rest in the self. Abiding joy comes to those who still the mind, freeing themselves from the taint of self-will. With their consciousness unified, they become one with Brahman. The infinite joy of touching Brahman is easily attained by those who are free from the burden of evil and established within themselves. They see the self in every creature and all creation in the self. With consciousness unified through meditation, they see everything with an equal eye. I am ever present to those who have realized me in every creature, seeing all life in my manifestation. They are never separated from me. They worship me in the hearts of all, and all their actions proceed from me. Wherever they may live, they abide in me. When a person responds to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were his own, he has attained the highest state of spiritual union. O Krishna, the stillness of divine union, which you described, is beyond my comprehension. How can the mind, which is so restless, attain lasting peace? Krishna, the mind is restless, turbulent, powerful, violent. Trying to control it is like trying to tame the wind. Krishna says, it is true that the mind is restless and difficult to control, but it can be conquered, Arjuna, through regular practice and detachment. Those who lack self-control will find it difficult to progress in meditation, but those who are self-controlled, striving earnestly through the right means, will attain the goal. Arjuna says, Krishna, what happens to one who has faith, but who lacks self-control and wanders from the path, not attaining success in yoga? If he becomes deluded on the spiritual path, will he lose the support of both worlds like a cloud scattered in the sky? Krishna, and you can dispel all doubts, remove this doubt which binds me. Krishna says, Arjuna, my son, such a person will not be destroyed. No one who does good works will ever come to a bad end, either here or in the world to come. When such people die, they go to other realms where the righteous live. They dwell there for countless years and then are reborn into a home which is pure and prosperous. Or they may be born into a family where meditation is practiced. To be born into such a family is extremely rare. The wisdom they have acquired in previous lives will be reawakened, Arjuna, and they will strive even harder for self-realization. Indeed, they will be driven on by the strength of their past disciplines. Even one who inquires after the practice of meditation rises above those who simply perform rituals. Through constant effort over many lifetimes, a person becomes purified of all selfish desires and attains the supreme goal of life. Meditation is superior to severe asceticism and the path of knowledge. It is also superior to selfless service. May you attain the goal of meditation, Arjuna. Even among those who meditate, that man or woman who worships me with perfect faith, completely absorbed in me, is the most firmly established in yoga. So yeah, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. And, where it said that, what do you guys think? Children are taught walking meditation first in the TM tradition. Yoga is union. Find it. Thank me later. Right. So, hi, everybody. I don't know who's all here. There's a few watching. I've got COVID and I'm feeling great. So, other than that, I just read 2 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm just seeing what you guys think about it. Like I've said in the past, I've got this channel to share my path and to explore my path, to expand my path, to help my path, to express my my thoughts in my path, I suppose. It's funny because 4 years ago I started this channel as a sky watcher, somebody who filmed the sky, thinking a planet was coming, Nibiru. And come to find out, Nibiru means a place of crossing or a signpost for transition. And lo and behold, that's where I was at. I was at a place of crossing. And it was a signpost for transition. Yes. The fact that renunciation and renouncing the selfless or selfish desires that we have, from sex to food. We all have this void that we want to fill. We all have this hole in us that can never be filled by anything we do. And I can only speak for myself, but I know this for myself, that my whole life I've always searched for things that would make me happy, that that would bring me ultimate happiness. And I've never found it. You find peace and joy in family and love and in kids and and wife and husbands and, and relationships, but you also find negative aspects in that. And there's plenty of relationships in my life that are negative and positive. And them relationships have not brought me the ultimate peace that I seek. That, I've been a drug addict, I've been a alcoholic, I've been addicted to smoking cigarettes, I've been a foodie, I've eaten food to the point where I've damn near puked. I mean, all the 7 deadly sins I've done, and we all have, right? No, I got COVID because I just had the flu a while back too. COVID comes up on the PCR test, says COVID, and flu does not come back as COVID on the PCR tests. And I know this because I got a big old damn box of them that test me, that I can test with. And my wife's a nurse, so we have access to that sort of thing. But yeah, the fact that we all have this void that we're trying to fill. And the Bhagavad Gita is trying to tell us, God is trying to tell us, God is within us all, guys. God is attainable because it's us. It's within us. God is in all, yet all are not God, right? All right, guys. I just thought I'd do that, give myself something to do. Maybe I'll come back on later and talk some more or something. I don't know. I just thought I'd do this. Much love, everybody. Peace and chicken grease. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.